vague comments made from people within the House and the Senate, and then afterwards, a whole bunch of interpretation as to what all of that talk really means. Listen, to be honest, the truth is, no one knows what it means, but it's provocative. It gets the people going. Or in other words, let me just sum up all of the updates over the last few weeks in a few sentences, and this is all you need to know. The House passed a brand new $3 trillion stimulus package last week that's soon going to be voted on by the Senate, who's openly said that they're not going to be passing it. And that's really the most accurate, up-to-date answer as of today. Yeah, seriously, that's it. The Senate has also implied that there's no urgency to pass a new stimulus right now, and they're taking more of a wait-and-see approach to see how much stimulus is really needed once the economy begins reopening. When that happens is anybody's guess, but while we wait and see what ends up happening, a new stimulus proposal has begun taking shape in the form of a back-to-work bonus of $450 a week. That's right, potentially if this were to pass, they would pay you $450 a week to go back to work. Now, even though this is just a proposed solution to help bridge the gap between unemployment and reopening the economy, this is going to be something that's probably met with a lot more urgency because the current unemployment benefit is going to be ending on July 31st, which means the 38 million people who have filed for unemployment have another 63 days left to figure out a plan to make money, or the Senate will have to make a decision as to what they want to do. That's why we're covering this today, because from all the proposals and talks out there, this one has the most urgency. An extra $450 a week is a very interesting topic to dive into, and there are several other details that should be pointed out. So with that said, if you wouldn't mind just really quick poking that like button until it turns blue, it would greatly help out my channel. It helps me out. It helps out the YouTube algorithm. It takes just a quick second, so if you wouldn't mind doing that, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And with that said, let's begin the video. Okay, so here's what all of this is about. It all began when the Senate passed what's known as the CARES Act, which is a $2 trillion stimulus to help give aid and assistance to hospitals, people, states, multi-billion-dollar corporations, the usual. But in the CARES Act was an increased unemployment benefit of an extra $600 a week on top of the normal unemployment benefit that they would receive from the state. See, I think it's a reasonable conclusion that if businesses are forced to shut down and people are forced out of work, they should be compensated for that because the closure was at no fault of their own. The extra $600 a week was initially meant to try to cover 100% of the average worker's lost income and give them a financial incentive to stay home, not go to work, and practice social distancing. However, as it's currently written, that benefit was only meant to be temporary, and it's currently set to expire on July 31st. That leaves a lot of people wondering, what happens after then? If their employers are not rehiring, they're left out of a job, and all of a sudden their income is substantially reduced. Then what? I think it's a very valid concern, and that leads us to this proposal. On May 20th, Senator Rob Portman discussed the need to incentivize employees to return back to work because as it stands right now, a study found that 63% of those who are receiving unemployment are now making more money from unemployment than they were from working. This was done somewhat intentionally because it would have been a logistical nightmare to try to cap someone's unemployment benefit at a percentage of what they were previously making, and to implement that at a statewide scale all at once with tens of millions of people all claiming unemployment at the exact same time. So the thinking was, we're just going to give $600 a week to everybody, and some people will make more and some people will make less, but it's better to give too much than too little, and that's that. However, the worry is with unemployment paying more than half of its recipients more money than they were making while they were working, that many of those people won't have an urgent incentive to get back to work. Plus, with that, many employers are reluctant to ask their employees to return back to work, knowing that that would mean they're now earning less money. At the same time, you can't just cut out the unemployment benefits altogether without giving people time to adjust, return back to work, and get situated, and that is, in a sense, where this plan comes in. Rob Portman suggested that employees should receive a $450 a week bonus for returning back to work that they could keep in addition to the money that they earn working. According to him, $450 a week represents the amount that would be needed to make a person making the average minimum wage better off in the workforce than on unemployment. And that would be the ideal way to shift people back into their work. The benefit to this is that it'll put more money in people's pockets, employers are going to be more likely to see their employees return back to work, and it's cheaper than giving out the $600 a week as it stands right now. However, there are some downsides to this. One is that this does nothing for employees who already returned back to work or have been working throughout the entire crisis. From that perspective, it would be unusual for someone to be making an extra $450 a week as an incentive to return back to work versus someone else who's been working the entire time and gets nothing. Second, this doesn't provide any assistance to those on Social Security, disability, or retirement income. And third, I think this is the most important, but this does nothing to help people who don't have a job to return back to. When you begin looking at it from this perspective, it becomes apparent that even though this is very well intentioned, it does nothing for people who are laid off and don't have a job to return back to, and arguably those are the people who need this the most. And the real concern here above everything else is that what happens when the $600 a week unemployment benefit expires and then all of a sudden there are not enough jobs to return back to? Then what? It's estimated that 42% of lost jobs during the pandemic are gone for good. So in this case, it absolutely needs to be addressed. Now, Senator Portman did address this concern in his proposal, and he believes a portion of the overall stimulus should go back into reinvesting in the country's infrastructure. His argument is that by doing this, it'll provide so many more jobs for so many more people, it's money spent back on our country, and that helps everybody. Or as he says, you spend $1 and you get back more of $1 in terms of revenue from the economic benefit. In a way, I think he's right. There are investments we can make back into our economy that provide jobs for people who need them, and that could include building highways, building streets, parks, sidewalks, you name it. This way, it maintains at least some level of job growth, it provides a source of work for people who want it, people make more money, they're then taxed on more money, and everybody wins. So even though this proposal sounds interesting, it's got a very long way to go. But at least it starts getting the Senate thinking about this and how they intend to proceed forward with the unemployment benefit soon set to expire. I think one of the best ways to address this, like he mentioned, is to reinvest money back into statewide infrastructure projects. If 42% of lost jobs are not coming back as estimated, then at least a portion of those positions could be shifted over to something that has a very positive ROI and directed by the state. For everyone else, I think it actually might be beneficial to continue the unemployment benefit, but slowly phase it out as the economy begins to reopen. So instead of just shutting it down altogether on July 31st or extending the full $600 a week benefit until 2021, perhaps the new benefit could be $400 a week beginning August 1st for 45 days, and then after that, it becomes $300 a week for the next 45 days. Then after that, it's $200 a week, and then by the end of the year, it could be fully phased out. This way, we allow our economy to slowly reopen. It's obviously not going to spring back to 100% life overnight, and we allow people time to acclimate to a new environment. I really think there's no way employers are just going to go and rehire everyone back without knowing how much money they're going to make, how busy they're going to be, and this just gives everyone time to adjust. In addition to that, I don't think we should have to incentivize people to get off unemployment and go back to work, but there should be other options available for those who need work but don't have a job to return to. And for that, reinvesting back into infrastructure and creating jobs would be perfect. Think of all the jobs that would create. Think of how much benefit that would give to everybody with money that was going to be spent anyway. So if they're going to do that, they may as well spend it on something that's going to improve everyone's quality of life as well. When it comes to this, Mark Cuban has an interesting take on this as well. He proposed sending $1,000 every 2 weeks for 2 months to everyone in the United States, with the catch that it must be spent within 10 days. The intention is that this money would be spent on non-essential discretionary spending within the local economy, and then from there would be a trickle-up effect that would help keep businesses afloat. The problem with this, though, economics aside, is that actually enforcing this would be next to impossible. Realistically, there's nothing stopping someone from going and buying a prepaid $1,000 Visa gift card every 2 weeks and then saving it to spend money on something else later. Or you could pay your best friend $1,000 for a service over PayPal, then have that person withdraw cash for you and give you the cash, and then you do the same for them, vice versa. Or what's stopping someone from just going and spending $1,000 every 2 weeks on Amazon, and then all of a sudden Amazon is raking in all the money? So overall, I think it's a really interesting idea, and the concept behind it is good. It's just actually logistically enforcing this would be impossible. There's no way to do it. So really, at the end of the day, we're all trying to figure out a solution, but it's a very complex problem to fix, and there are a lot of variables that come with this. We don't know how quickly our economy is going to reopen. We don't know if people are going to spend the same amount of money as they did before. We don't know what businesses won't see any demand. We don't know what businesses are not going to rehire the same amount of people. All of those questions are really going to determine where exactly another stimulus is needed, and prior to all of that, everything is really just a guess. Now, of course, we could look back at this video 6 months from now and see how all of this played out, but unfortunately, we don't have a crystal ball. Mine broke last week when I was smashing the like button for the YouTube algorithm. So because of that, we're really going to have to do our best to figure out how to proceed. It seems like the $450 a week initiative to get back to work is very interesting, but there are still a lot of problems with this that need to be addressed. As of now, it really seems like the current plan of action is reopen the economy, see what happens, and then, if absolutely necessary, reissue another stimulus as needed. And that so far seems to be the main update that we're given. But all of that aside, I really believe, as much as people don't like hearing this, you are your own best stimulus. Let me explain. If you have time off right now, do try to use that time wisely. You could read books, you could take online classes, you could learn a new skill, you could get in shape, you could start a side business. With time and determination, I believe the possibilities are limitless, and in the long run, you could end up making way more money than you're ever going to receive from a stimulus. Look at many of the channels who have come out of nowhere talking about stimulus updates. Trust me, just talking about the stimulus can make you 1,000 times more money than the actual stimulus itself. So I believe your own creativity, work ethic, and dedication is going to be way more powerful than any amount of money that's ever given to you. And I don't say that to discredit just how significant another stimulus would be in helping a lot of people. But instead, I want to put it in perspective that it's really important to look out for ourselves. And it's up to us to make sure we put our time to its best use as possible, and that way we come out of all of this as best as we can. So with that said, you guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. As always, make sure to destroy the like button, subscribe button, notification bell. Also, feel free to add me on Instagram. I post there pretty much daily, so if you want to be a part of it there, feel free to add me there, as on my second channel, The Graham Stephan Show. I post there every single day. I'm not posting here. So if you want to see a brand new video from me every single day, make sure to add yourself to that, as well as my podcast, also down below in the description. And finally, if you guys want 2 free stocks, use the link down below in the description.